and tonight we have a special guest with us all the way from America. Hello, Luana.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Yeah, we're good. And just
not too bad. It's same wherever you go. The lockdown life is still going on, which is good.
And just to let everyone know at home, Luana is from, I can't pronounce it now.
Colorado.
And of course, she's investigated many places over America, including Waverly Hills, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, that was an interesting site.
So I've got to say, to get things started, do you have like a favorite location out in America?
You know, I don't, because they're all pretty unique, and each location's a little bit different. And so, you know, I've kind of been drawn to a lot of the mines. Colorado has a lot of mines from the mining history, from gold and silver mines. Yeah, so that's kind of locally what I like to do. But I mean, each location is so unique and different.
Okay, I've got to ask. I must admit, when I went out to America and done a couple of investigations, they done it very different to how we do it over here. I've got to ask, how would you investigate a building? Do you have all the equipment and everything else? Do you use mediums?
You know, and it's interesting because here there's a lot of groups. They're very split on what they like to focus on, and I kind of blend both of those. I feel like we all have medium abilities. Some of us just land a little bit stronger on those senses, and so I think that they help. The more that I've tuned into those senses, the more that I feel like I'm able to get to a deeper level. So I do with my team. I like to blend that, and then I like to also focus on whatever I can get scientifically on the equipment.
Okay.
Well, I think that's a good approach as well, because I think in the UK particularly, what James is probably saying there is that UK groups love the whole idea of mediumship, and to a degree, I think they forget about the scientific side of things. But I'm very much about both sides. If something happens, I want to know what's the logical explanation first. If there isn't one, then maybe it's paranormal. But I think particularly in the UK, these paranormal TV shows over the last, I'd say, 12 or so years have been had a massive influence on the industry. And I think to a degree, a lot of groups here have tried to replicate what those shows do. You know, we've got Ghost Adventures, which is American, very, very popular over in the UK, right through to Most Haunted. And I think the way you're doing it is the best way, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to compare the two because, you know, I started out with having a medium in my team and I would get her impressions and then we would focus on the scientific portion. I started blending, you know, kind of like trying to expand my own senses. And the more that I did that, I felt like I communicated better. I think it's interesting. Sometimes it's hard. I think you guys probably might feel this in the UK as well, but not a lot, you know, for scientific community, there's no proofs per se, at least in our Western, you know, in the Western culture, it's very much like either you can repeat it and you can prove it in the scientific community or you can't. And so like a lot of this doesn't fall into things that you can just repeat in the same kind of conditions. And so I try to do the best I can to scientifically document what I can. But when it all comes down to it, I feel like you find what works for you. And I feel like that's what I've had to learn to do in the community is not, you know, I try not to, I think when I was new, I tried to mimic a lot of what was out there and, you know, you see the television shows and you want to be like them. And now I'm like, I want to just find my own style and kind of relax into that. And that's what's, I think, helped me get to a deeper level too.
Yeah, naturally, we all learn off these TV shows. I often refer to a program, actually it was an American program called Sightings. It was on many years ago. And I watched that as a child, loved it. And that's how I thought, this is actually a really interesting field to be in. And that's what made me venture into what I do now. And it's interesting that, you're right, I think that as much as we document the scientific side, now we should be doing that, is very hard because we've got no proof that ghosts either do or don't exist. We're pretty much going by our own experiences, and that's what we tend to use the best evidence to come across.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
I got to say, I agree with you both. I think the thing is, I don't know if you get this out in America or not, but here in the UK, we've got a lot of, say, paranormal equipment. And a lot of people refer to them as ghost detectors, which, of course, scientifically, they're not ghost detectors. It's just one of the reasons you're using that bit of equipment, because it might explain paranormal activity. But like you said, or Andrew and yourself, it's about personal experience. And I must admit, over the years, same as what we were speaking about before, the ones that stand out is my personal experiences. It's fantastic. It's like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely taken me kind of on a journey, just being an investigator, you know, with when I look back, like what I was in the beginning compared to what I am now. And just my recommendations, advice I have for people in the field today that ask me like what's important. And it is blending and kind of finding what works for you. And, you know, I've had to kind of let go of what I do to prove to anybody else that ghosts are real. I think that, you know, sometimes people expect that, like, you're going to prove to me that like ghosts are real. And I'm like, no, like it's all personal experience. And, you know, I can have these skeptics come to my events. And if they're really dead set on there is no such thing as ghosts, nothing you're going to be able to do ever convince them. So
yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've just taken that approach of, you know, I want to share my experiences with other people who are willing to be open to the possibility of that. But I feel like even at my events, I always tell people, you have to have your own experience for I feel like be real to you. And, you know, you can watch what I do, and people that have never experienced anything will come. You guys might have had these at your events too, where people will come and they'll be like, you know, I feel like everything's being faked, or, you know, they kind of like start going through, and it's like, just wait until something happens to you. And I feel very strongly that if you already have that mindset, you kind of block. Like, that's what I always tell people is you almost push away the activity. That's been my experience, at least.
Yeah, I think when the UK in particular, you say about, I mean, we're dead against faking anything. We don't have any of that stuff going on. But the problem is we have got, in the UK in particular, there's like, I don't know what it is, there's like this big internal battle between groups that goes on, which me and James always stay away from. And within that, we've got these people who, like you said, they've watched Most Haunted or Ghost Adventures or Tabs or whatever, and they say, yeah, I'm going to do that. And when we're doing it for the right reasons, they do it to think, oh yeah, we can make a quick buck out of this. Let's do it. And what they actually do is they always fake things purposely, and that becomes a barrier for us because, as you said, you get people coming to our events who go, well, I went to so this happened, that happened, this happened, and they kind of, because they've been, I don't know, the way led down the wrong path, they're a bit confused on what they should expect from a ghost hunt.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that sometimes we found that too, where people are like, you look at some of the shows, and I understand the purpose behind it is you have like 45 minutes sometimes to come up with a great episode.
Yeah.
So they take hours of investigating and they boil it down to what they're going to show you on that episode to keep your interest. And so people have this false perception already when they show up to these investigations that like everything is going to be like that in that 2-hour or 3-hour event that you're hosting. And it's not always like that, you know, and sometimes you have active nights, and sometimes you don't really know what you got until you get your recorders. And, you know, that takes time. It takes sometimes weeks down the road before you realize what was actually communicating with you. So yeah, sometimes people are like, nothing's happening. And it's like, well, that's a typical, you know, investigation sometimes.
Yeah, you're right. I've been here 5 minutes, nothing's happened so far. What's going on? Because you're right. They watch even the movies like Amityville Horror or whatever. They watch and The Conjuring, whatever it is. They watch it, and it's active. Because you're right. Are you really going to watch an hour program of I don't know, Ghost Adventures where nothing happens? Probably not. You're going to get bored. So they almost think that's the kind of same as what we're going to do. So I have to ask them. So what got you interested in the paranormal in the first place?
You know what really led me down this path was, you know, I grew up in a house that we had activity that we couldn't explain. We had one where our piano started playing on its own,
Oh, wow.
and the way that the house was designed is my sister and I had our bedrooms on the lower level, and then my parents were upstairs, so we were separated from our parents. And I just remember my dad actually, you know, came down and like searched the house for an intruder because he felt like somebody had probably was in the house that had got up and played the piano. And things like the cabinets, we'd wake up and they'd be open, and just weird things like that, just strange occurrences. And it wasn't until I was a teenager that my grandfather was ill before he passed away. And when last time that he was really coherent, when I saw him in the hospital, it was my first real experience with watching someone that I loved and cared about die. And, you know, he couldn't really speak when he was in the hospital because he had a lot of tubes in him and oxygen. But I remember like the look in his eyes when I went to go give him a kiss on the forehead. He was sleeping, and he saw that I was crying, and I think he just felt horrible. Like he didn't want me to worry about him. And it took him probably another week and a half to pass away. But I just remember one night I was in my room, and I went to bed, and all of a sudden I couldn't move. I was like paralyzed, and I was laying on my right side, and then this chill just came, and it went all the way down to the core of my spinal cord. Like I could open my eyes and I just saw like a hand patting the side of me. And it was just such a weird, my brain was of course going, like I was, I could process everything. And I know that there's a lot of theories about paralysis. I don't really agree that there was paralysis in this case, but what was weird is when I came to, I was able to function again and move. I just intuitively knew, like, this is what happens when someone dies, or, you know, I've heard about this, like Oprah Winfrey was on television a lot during that time. And I was like, this would be like on Oprah's show. This is what she would talk about when somebody dies. And so that's just kind of what happened. And then I looked at the clock and I tried to go back to sleep, although it was such a strange occurrence. And then I got a phone call an hour later that said, your grandfather passed away, you know, an hour earlier. My dad came downstairs and said, grandfather passed away. And it just hit me. And I remember thinking, my parents are going to think I'm crazy. Like, I don't know how I could see, like, and I felt I'm an empath. And so I don't know if you guys share being an empath, but I feel other people's emotions. I feel sometimes it's overwhelming because I can feel the emotions of both the departed and the living. And so back then I could feel his emotions, which was peace. And I knew that experience, he was trying to tell me I'm okay, I'm at peace, and he was gone. I have not connected with him ever again in that same way, but it left me with a lot of questions of how could I be here in my room and my grandfather's physical body be miles away, but yet I know he was coming, let me know he was okay. And so that's kind of what started everything. That gave me a lot of questions. And then, you know, as older, people I was around, my parents were always very supportive of my sense, you know, being able to sense that. And so they never, I had that support at home, which was great. But, you know, beyond that, people think you're crazy sometimes, you know, and so I just had people in my life that like I kind of shut it down for a while because it was very much like, that's fake, that's not real. And so I listened to those voices around me. And it wasn't until probably about 15 years ago that I started really getting into, like, I want to know more about this.
Yeah. I guess as well, being, you know, teenager, experiencing those kind of things as well, could be pretty tough to deal with because, as you said, a lot of people will think you're crazy. But and I think mediums generally, and people of a similar nature, they come across that all the time because naturally people think you can't be seeing this. But if you know you're having a fantastic experience, I don't know. I guess in a way, was it a reassuring experience for you with your grandpa? Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't very long, but it was so meaningful at the time. And it was just, it really was like, I came in and I told my parents like a few minutes later, they were sitting at the kitchen table, and I just said, I don't want you to think I'm crazy, but Grandpa came in, and I believe he saw me on his way out. And I remember looking at me, and she said, "It's okay. Like sometimes people just can pick up on that information." And I later learned, like, my mom has a lot of abilities as well, and so does her family, because of a long hereditary line, it almost feels like, of intuitive. Yeah.
It's amazing. We've got a couple of people who are commenting online at the moment. We've got good evening to Rachel and Janice and Peter, who've all joined us. Peter's put, what about mind transfer? Could that be a possible explanation behind ghosts? So I don't know, what your own, is it a mind transfer? I mean, you know, I'm not sure on that one. And Rachel's put, I had a similar experience with my grandfather when he passed. It was like he was saying goodbye to let me know that he is still there. And I think, yeah, absolutely reassuring thing for you, but for yourself, it led you down a path of what you're doing now, effectively.
And I think, the more that I've been around people, and and it's not a taboo thing anymore for us to talk about it. In fact, I feel like there's more believers than non-believers, even in the United States. I feel like there's more people that end up having these kind of experiences, especially with loved ones. Like, loved ones just seem to appear and give you the signs, like, I'm okay, I'm around you, especially when you're struggling, or when you just need a sign, or just. So I think I've been comforted in the fact that, like, I think it's a very common thing now. Like, at 17, I was like, I'm not telling friends or anybody what happened. But now I'm proud to kind of talk about those things, because you help other people out. The more that you open up and you can have these discussions, I think more people feel like they need to talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's a much bigger thing now. I think that we in the UK have got the Victorian era to thank for that, because they were really into ghosts and communicating with the dead in the UK, thanks to the Fox sisters from America, of course. So it was a big thing. But more recently, during the war, particularly World War One, and people in the trenches, we had a lot of reports in the UK where ladies at home would go, "Oh, I've just seen my husband, but he can't be there because he's at war. So how have I seen him?" And then they would get a telegraph days later, and the time they saw their husband was the time that he passed away of his apparition. So I think that naturally now, around the world, probably in the United States and in the UK as well, we're becoming a place where religion, or belief in religion as we know it, has really decreased a lot, and people start to think outside the box more. And one of those things that they're looking into is the possibility of ghosts.
I agree. Yeah, and I think that that's kind of been an interesting thing for me. My uncle was a religious brother with the Catholic Church for like his entire life. More than 50 years he spent. And just knowing that, like, I'm not a religious person. I'm spiritual. I have a very strong spiritual side. I don't religion, but my uncle was devoted to it his entire life. And come to find out, like, right towards the end of his life, he told me, like, all of these ghost stories about, different priests and stuff in the church that, like, had passed on, that they all knew was giving them little signs. And so I just thought it was an interesting dynamic, concerned with that my uncle was like, oh yeah, we all know, Father or whatever is signs all the time, and he moves things around, or he'll something for us to find as a sign. And so I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I'm much the same. I was raised in a Catholic family as well, so I went to Catholic boys' school and everything when I was at school. And for me, it was almost like they didn't want to talk about the idea of being a ghost. They didn't want to talk about it. It was all about demons as opposed to ghosts, and that's fine because everybody's belief is what it is. But I think that when I started to get to an age, and I thought, you know what? It's your belief, and I think that I had experiences where I thought there's something more there, and it's definitely not what they're telling me it is. There's this idea of ghosts, and I think that there's way too many people around the world for millions of years who have claimed to have experiences with ghosts. Yeah. Surely we can't ignore that. There must be something there.
Yes, I agree. I agree, and I think when you start looking at some of the different kinds of scientific research that's being done, I like to say, and I don't mean to sound like because I love science. I absolutely love science. I think it's very fascinating.
Yeah.
I think it's been a lot of pressure in the ghost hunting community, at least here in America. It's been a lot of pressure to like make it fit in this box, that everything has to fit in this scientific box. And when I start looking at things like quantum physics and just what they're finding, and with the way that subatomic particles like operate, you get a different result if you watch an experiment than you do. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of it's kind of like maybe we're kind of looking. I know that there's so much that we can't answer right now, but maybe there's other areas that we're just not tapping into.
Yeah,
just in that right direction.
I've got to say, I completely agree with you. It's like, it's quite strange in the ghost hunting field. A lot of people you talk to say about quantum physics to, they have no idea of it. And just like you said, there's so much more out there. I think even, like you said, it's been scientifically documented. If you watch a particle, it behaves differently to when you're not watching it. And
absolutely, yeah.
There's, okay, I could talk for hours now.
Parapsychology as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
because we study parapsychology, as people should do if they're doing this kind of thing. But there are so many groups out there in the UK who have no idea what parapsychology even is. They have no idea because all they're really interested in is entertaining the public and getting them scared. But actually, to me, if you don't look at the scientific side, I feel that simply not look at it is, one, I'm not learning myself, but two, it's deceiving people, because actually there's so much we don't understand, even about what our brain does. We don't know what the majority of our brain does. There's so much out there we just do not understand, and I think that we certainly shouldn't ignore that in this field.
Yeah, I agree. It's really fascinating when you start kind of opening up your mind and learning about it. Like I just try to study it on my own. I watch videos, I read books. I just try to like take it all in, because it's like the more that you know, the more that you can understand like maybe why we're not hitting the mark in the scientific community right now today. But it's so interesting and fascinating when you start looking at the quantum physics, what they're finding and different experiments. So I kind of feel like maybe ghosts kind of fit more into that realm, that box of science that just hasn't, I mean, it's just so early in the discovery phase, I guess.
But I think what a lot of people do is, particularly from my point of view, because I heavily do a lot of parapsychology stuff on the events and things, and I do believe in ghosts, but also to believe in ghosts, I want to rule out logical stuff first. And sometimes when people come to me and say, "Oh, this happened," and I'll say, "Oh, well, it could be this," from a scientific point of view, they're almost like, I've sworn to them. How dare you? No, I'm not taking your. It's not about taking your experience away from you, because that is important, or your belief, or anything like that. It's about looking at the bigger picture here. What really does cause these events to happen? That's, is for me, is an understanding and learning thing for us to be able to progress in a fascinating industry that we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely, so I think it's hopefully, going forward, we'll find more, we'll make more progress with the scientific side of it. Until then, I do my best to, debunk things, to use logic. But the other part, like I said, that, I think not enough people here, at least in the United States, I think it's starting to gain a lot more, visibility, is really with the mediumship and blending the two, and how much of a deeper level you might be able to get to with that. But
right. It's really good talking to you, actually, because we don't talk to a lot of people in the paranormal who know much about the scientific side, so it's good from that point of view. Sorry, James, I took over then, didn't I?
No, it's okay. I was just going to say, I've got to ask. I know you said it's going slightly off the conversation. I know you said you've been to Waverley Hills. Do you have a favourite location out in America where you've done a ghost hunt?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I said, have you got a favourite location out there for ghost hunting?
Oh man, Waverly Hills was amazing. We went there a couple times, just because you can't walk in that building without something thing, like multiple things happen. The audio captures were amazing. The visual, I've never seen. It's really like when we're talking about how we have these personal experiences and things happen, and sometimes you're trying to explain it to other people. But what was unique about that when we went to Waverly Hills was having my my whole team go with me. We were walking down the hallway and I was in front. We weren't even like investigating yet. We were just trying to get to our location to set up. And I just saw this shadow like figure pass the hallway, and it blocked out like there was an exit sign hanging from the ceiling and a red exit sign, and it just blocked it like out completely. It went black as it moved from one side of the hallway to the other. And just being able to confirm with everybody else that they saw that at the same moment was really cool. So that was like, as far as like famous locations, that's probably been one of my favorites, because not only did we connect, it wasn't like, you know, I did feel like a lot of sorrow there, like a lot of, being an empath, I had to leave the room when I was in the children's ward upstairs on the 5th floor. That was really difficult, and I got overwhelming emotions. So from a famous location perspective, that's definitely one of my favorite locations. I also connected with just like, it sounded like just, you know, regular spirits that just wanted to communicate with us. It wasn't like they were all devastated or not crossed over, if you will. But they just, I don't know, it was interesting. Like, we were asking them questions like, did you enjoy the children? And got a response that said indeed. And so it just was like having a conversation, which was nice. I think outside of Waverly Hills, there's a mine up in our mountains in Idaho Springs that's called, it's the Phoenix Gold Mine, and it's still an active gold mine today. And that I've been really drawn to. I've done it several times now. I actually spent the night sleeping in the mine with one other female, just to try to draw out some ghosts. And I had already captured a full sentence audio capture that sounded like an old miner that said, "Can you tell me what you're doing?" Like, maybe that I was using didn't make sense. And I have this capture on YouTube. It's really great because I could slow it down and kind of draw. You can make out every word. That was one that actually Ghost Adventures did get a hold of, and they were like, "Do you want to film with us?" And I was out of town at the time. That capture like really just made it like my experience there just so much more intriguing. And so that's why I went back and spent the night. Didn't really have a lot of activity when I spent the night. Other than I always talk about that story. This rat crawled up my leg when I was sleeping.
Oh, God.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'd be more scary than a ghost.
Yeah. I was more scared about like potential spiders, but the mine is too cold.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
I made sure to ask. I'm like, please tell me there's no spiders. So like, no, it's too cold in here for the spiders. But the rats, actually, the miners love the rats, because the rats can pick up on activity, especially like when your mines are going to cave, things like that. Like, the rats can sense it before it happens, and so they always take care of their mine rats. So they love the mine rats.
Oh, wow.
In this room, it was a chamber. It was called the Healing Chambers, and it had that would, all different people from around the world were coming to study this vein of gold that they claim like can heal you. And so that's where I sleep that night. And the rat, I thought, oh, I'm up on a bench, the rat won't get me. And yeah, it crawled up and started coming up my leg.
Oh, I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, that and spiders, just, I don't mind about ghosts. Ghosts don't bother me. Rats and spiders, just no. Just no. We've been to places where they've told us they've had cave spiders, and if you shine your light on them, they drop on you from the ceiling. And that horrified me more than any potential ghost. I can tell you that for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, that would be my fear too.
Yeah, absolutely. But did you ever get scared of the ghosts, though? Has anything ever scared you other than the rats and spiders?
You know, it's weird because I don't get scared easily. That's probably why like paranormal investigation for me is kind of like, you know, fun and exciting. You know, there's times like I've been a little scared at locations depending upon the experiences. Like there was a restaurant that I was investigating on a regular basis theme, and one other guy, we were doing an event that night. And so we went to set up our equipment, and the lights were off. And just, that's when the energy would really settle. Like I could always feel it. Like, and I turned the corner that night and it was just like so heavy, if that makes sense. Like it just, you could just feel it. And we just had like like the music turned on automatically through the speaker system upstairs when we were there. There was no one there to turn it on. And yeah, kind of like, you know, it rattled me a little bit. But not too many things that really bothered me. It's just the spiders. Like when I'm sitting in the dark,
Yeah,
I'm like,
I definitely empathise for that one, definitely. To be fair, I'm the same. I don't really get scared, but ghosts don't really scare me because anything that happens to me is exciting because that's what I want. I want something to happen so I can learn from it. But there are people, of course, who do scream and they get a bit scared. But yeah, I guess each to their own. James, you get scared sometimes, don't you?
Not so much now. I've got to admit, when I first started out doing this, I did used to get scared. And I'll give you just one example. I remember being at a ghost hunt, looking behind me and thinking, oh, who's that in the corner? Oh, I know, someone going to jump out. That's brilliant. I thought it was quite funny. Then I realised this person started walking over. I looked up at him, and his face was no blank. It was just a black shadow. And this person just stood behind me. And then I got scared, I must admit. You know, this was only like a few months into doing it. And yeah, I was probably a bit petrified then.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I got touched one time, and that was not a good feeling. Something touched my leg, and I was not expecting it. So that was when we were setting up, and it made me jump a little bit. But I've always like thought it was just interesting and fun. Like at least something's trying to communicate with me, and I don't just haven't had anything that. I mean, there has been some mean things and some nasty things on certain investigations, but you know, I always try to take an approach to. I'm not into anger or anything. You know, I try to be loving and kind to whatever I experience, and that's been my style, and it's worked well for me. So I don't go in demands and like being mean. I'm very protective. I have spirits that have been with me for a few years that show up on our investigations and come through our equipment, and I'm very protective of them, you know. And so like when in some of the events, I've had people that started getting demanding with them, and I've had I need you to leave the event if you can't be kind to the spirits. Like I don't expect them to be animal in the circus, and that's not what I do. If they want to communicate with us, they'll communicate with us. But I feel like I haven't really experienced anything bad, like really what I would say would be demonic. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I just haven't experienced it. So.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think what we've ultimately got to remember is that these ghosts were living people, and so you wouldn't necessarily come into my house today and start demanding this, that, and the other. I mean, you might, I doubt it, but you know, so we've got to remember these are living people. So actually, it's a little bit disrespectful to go in there. And you're right, they're not circus animals. They just want to make contact, they'll do it. If they don't, they don't. Everyone's different, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have a better chance too of the things that are angry, you know, just by asking them, like, is there something I can do for you? Is there a message you would like me to relay? Is there something that you would like to tell me that would help you, you know, and just having those kind of discussions. I feel like even with the mean, angry ones will sometimes just be enough to either have it or just, I don't know, you just, I feel like you increase your chances of getting results with just, but that's just.
Well, no. I mean, if you think about like Waverly Hills, for example, I mean, the stuff that went on there is traumatizing, you know, to say the least. And they're going to be a little bit, I suppose, vulnerable. So if people go in there and start shouting demands, and is that really going to help you get activity in that situation? It's not really, is it?
Yeah, and it's also like a lot of these people don't understand. A lot of groups, this is kind of like my hot button with paranormal teams coming in and stirring up and angering the energy, and then they ruin it for everyone else. But, you know, I have so many locations now that just aren't open to anyone coming in because people have come in and just like, especially I have one location and it's a mansion. The owners are just amazing people. They just changed ownership a few years back. And I'm the only team that they'll allow to come in and investigate because they're very protective of the spirits there. There was a very sad story. A couple young teenage girls were murdered in that location, and they don't want people coming in and angering whatever's there. And sometimes you get these attachments or things passing through that will, as you have that kind of energy, you attract that kind of spirit. That's been my experience at least too. And so I get a little bit upset when teams ruin it for other teams because of that style and that approach. And I think a lot of them, they see like Zach going in and doing that in Ghost Adventures, not even realizing that, that is a location where maybe somebody was like harmed and that's his style. And that's kind of like emotion that they want to trigger on that show. But in reality, it's like, I just wish more teams wouldn't be so, provoking with spirits.
Yeah. James, I'm sure you can verify that in the UK, it seems to be a regular theme, this paranormal groups closing locations. It happens here as well.
Yeah, I've got to say, I know I mentioned just before the show when me and Andrew lived in a manor for a couple of years, quite a few nights we could hear the groups investigating downstairs, and sometimes it was quite surprising what they would actually get up to and try. But like Andrew said, sadly there is quite a few locations out there that's either stopped letting groups in altogether. Some of them, lucky enough, they do let us back. And it's sometimes a shame the way paranormal teams do actually treat a location.
Mm-hmm.
It spoils it for everyone.
Yeah, it's worrying. It's definitely worrying. Yeah, absolutely. So how many people are in your team?
Well, I had 12 of us total. We were a pretty big team at one point. That's big, at least for what we were doing. The team, I started having some medical issues a few years back, so I disbanded my team. It could, continue to investigate because I was like laid up for a couple of years, which is different surgeries and stuff. And so I disbanded my team, but I'm going to rebuild at some point. And I know I just have to like put out an announcement. I'll have some great people step up. I do investigations. I team up a lot. I do a lot of networking with people, and I team up. And sometimes it's but like I don't know if you guys how your team is operated, but like I did a lot of like making sure, because I was really particular about energy. When people come to my team, I wanted to make sure, like you're a good fit for what I want my team to represent. So with that, it's like you're trying to recruit people that fit well, and then also just trying to find locations is like a full-time job. Calling on them. So it just gets to be a lot. Then when you do the investigations, you're doing them, but then the audio review and pulling things together in the way that I want to give our clients results would take sometimes 1 3-hour investigation could take sometimes like 20 hours of review time and work to put my results together for them so that I could give them, something tangible like a video or something with the results, audio captures. And so that's kind of, it was a lot for me. I kind of enjoy like just networking and still keeping my team up and running, but I don't know what the future will really hold for my team. I would like to get back into having, some members a bit, but for right now, I'm just enjoying going and networking with different people.
Yeah, you learn different ways of doing things, don't you? You can learn off each other, but you're right. I think that we talk about this a lot. Is that trust is a big thing, because the way we do it is we have supernatural tours and events. That's our public event side. So we do the ghost tours, the ghost hunts for public. Outside of that, we also have UK PRS, and that's our private group where we don't advertise it online. We don't do anything publicly. It's a group of about 8-10 of us who we have exactly the same thing. We have the right fit. We have to have the people doing it the right way. What we don't want, and what we also a big thing for me is to trust. Because I need to be with a team that if something happens, I know beyond all doubt that it wasn't one of them that did it. That's a big thing for me.
I totally agree. Yeah.
I've got to say, from a medium's point of view, you mentioned there about energy fitting and flowing. I'm a big believer. If everyone's got the same energy, everyone's got the same reason of being there, you're more likely to get something.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned it earlier as well. If you've got one person like out of 10 that's very negative and don't want to be there, to me it's almost like it stops all that activity and nothing happens, which sometimes is quite a shame. But yeah.
I totally agree, and that's one of the reasons why I opened up my own business. You know, I was trying to investigate with another local paranormal team, and as grateful as I am for all of my experiences and starting out somewhere, it just got to a point where, you know, not everybody would do review. I kind of felt like sometimes, like doing residential cases where people get scared homeowners and they want results and answers. Not being able to provide them the results in a tangible way that is professional was like really bothering me. And so I was like, I'm just going to open up my own team and do things the way that I would expect them to be done if I was like the client. And so, and just again, the energy was a big piece for me, because sometimes I would get so frustrated that certain people would take it like it was a big party. Like it's just a party when we go investigate. And I'm like, these are clients that have entrusted us to come into their location and investigate it. And so one of the reasons why energy became big, because I found myself frustrated on those investigations and I wasn't getting anything. I wasn't having any experiences because I was always showing up frustrated. I'm like, that can't help, you know? So exactly what you're saying, James, it's a, you know, that energy really does go a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also those people who open up their buildings and may be really nervous and may have had to pluck up the courage to get people in there in the first place. So it's all about giving the right message, isn't it? And making sure that actually they have made the right decision, that you are supporting them as well, really.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You are sorry, then James, go for it.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, for anyone that's watching at home, if you do have any questions at all for Luana, please do just put it in the comments box, and we will get you Luana answer something there. But of course, there's 101 questions I probably could think about, because I must admit, I do like America. I find it a very fascinating place. Is there, I suppose for me, even though I've already asked what your favourite place is there a place that absolutely does scare you?
That would like scare me, so I wouldn't want to go there.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big question, that one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I honestly know. I feel, because I feel like I have a belief system, you know, everybody has to rely on their own belief systems. And my belief system is that I'm very well protected and surrounded by light when I do these investigations. It doesn't bother me going to like some of the, I don't know, like more creepy places or places that people wouldn't want to go to. I try to stay away from. Here's the thing: is it's not that I'm scared of the location, but I did do this Villisca Axe Murder House, and although it's like a great, and they were so kind to us, and it's trauma that happened in that house. There was like I think 5 children that were murdered in the house, and
really,
those kind of locations for me, being an empath and feeling energy that's residual or, you know, live interactive energy, it was overwhelming for me. And so like some of the like really horrible locations that have like those kind of pasts, I don't want to go into. And I didn't realize that until I got on site, and I was like, and I went upstairs, and I'm like, I just don't even like the feeling of being up in the area where all their bedrooms were, where a lot of them perished. And so I just made the decision for myself. Like I just don't know that I would go into some of those locations. It's not that they scare me, but it's just more of like how overwhelming it is and how I feel like it's my
trauma.
It's just sadness, like the overwhelming amount of sadness that I get when I go into certain locations. And I've had it happen. like locally, I don't know if you guys have know what the Stanley Hotel is. That's another famous hotel here in Colorado where like Stephen King got the inspiration for writing The Shining, like he was staying there. Yeah, so that one is a really interesting and beautiful hotel I've gone to many times. Never really had much for audio captures there, but I had a little boy that appeared to me in the room upstairs where the children used to be. And he was in period clothing, early 1900s clothing. And he was probably like maybe around like 6 or 7 years old. And that was the first time I actually in the moment tried to communicate, through my mind with a spirit. And I could see him. To this day, he is the only spirit I've seen so clear, like I'm looking at you right now. Like, so that one was interesting.
Wow, well, Janice has asked at home here, is there any haunted location in the UK that you would like to visit? Oh
my gosh. I am up for any and all. I don't know a lot about recommendations you would have for me if I were to visit there, what ones you would be on the top of your list.
Yeah, throw the questions right back at you there, Janice. Yeah, I mean, there are loads that you would want to go to over here. I mean, there's just hundreds, really. I mean, I'm sure there, like America, there's ones that we know over here that are really famous from America. Probably the same with the UK and America. I'm guessing there's places that dominate the headlines and stuff in terms of ghosts. But yeah, I mean, if you ever get a chance, I guess, yeah, come over and have a look and see what we've got on offer. I guess it's the best way to put that. James, over to you. Keep passing over to James.
Yeah,
you can work hard.
Yeah, I'm trying to think now. I've got to say, I know you said that you work as a medium. Is there anything you do at the start of an investigation to get yourself ready? And the reason I say is over here, a lot of mediums believe doing a meditation at the start just to like help set the mind. Is that the same as yourself, or do you do something different?
I do. I feel like as you work on your vibration, I feel a lot is with vibration. And I've kind of proven that to myself with, through meditation, being able to really focus your mind in different areas, open up your senses. I was able to, I haven't ever experienced channeling up until I started focusing on vibration and raising my vibration. And then all of a sudden, like I would get messages that would just into my head, and it was like I had this back and forth conversation with the spirit. And even though I know we didn't, like it was like, oh, I know all the answers. It's just like what they sent me was like, I don't know, like but I understood and I comprehended it all. And so that's something, I talk about the spirits that have been around me. There's three of them that has been with me for about 8 years now. And started coming through on some of my events. And I have a little girl, Edith, who follows me around. And so when I turn on my equipment, I have just recording after recording of them saying their names and hearing them. And so I feel like by using your mind and like kind of doing some meditation and focusing on vibration, you really enhance the other. And it kind of almost sounds like your signal, like when your vibration is high, you attract those kind of spirits. It's in the same way that we've talked about, like with anger, or like if you're frustrated, sometimes things away, or you might attract meaner things or whatever it might be. But
I've got to ask, those 3 spirits you speak about, are they your spirit guides or gatekeepers or doorkeepers? How would you describe them? Well, I think it's like more spirits that follow you.
Yeah, I definitely in the beginning, the spirits that came to me, I felt were random, just by chance. And it wasn't until I went to another location where I had one location where Seth would always come through. And then as I went to a different location, coming through there. But I kind of feel like now I recognize that he's guiding me, like he's protective and he's guiding me.
Yeah.
And I've actually used my spirit guides. I'm a big believer in having spirit guides. I was a lot of spirits come to me after I started investigating, like when I was trying to rest. And I think it's just because my senses were like wide open at nighttime. And it was scary. Those are the times that I really was scared, because I was in the comfort of my own home and I wanted to sleep. and I wanted to be at, resting. And instead I'd wake up and there would be a shadow mass next to my bed, and
Wow.
overwhelming and scary at times. And because I picked up their emotions, sometimes they weren't at peace, and I felt that. And so I finally reached out, and I just like had this conversation one time with my spirit guides, because again, my belief is that they will help me. And so I just said, I can't be open for business all the time. Like, I don't want anything to come into my house. Like, that is, and I know Seth has been in the house. I know that like my kids have even picked up, but my rule is, and I feel like as what I would tell clients too, when I do residentials, like, you are always in control. You need to be in control when you're an investigator. So you need to set the ground rules and say, like, it's not okay for you to come into my house. You need to leave, or I will be willing to help you, but this is not the appropriate time. This is my space. So my guides helped me do that. So I would just say that, like, when I look at, they're all teaching me. They're all beautiful spirits, and they're all teaching me. Steve and Edith, all three of them are. So,
because doing this job, it can use up a lot of your energy, can't it, as a person?
Yes. Yeah, it's draining. It's overwhelming sometimes. And like I said, my rule was always like, I have kids, and you can't scare my children. That was my thing. And it comes with the territory. I think a lot of us investigators know you're open up to communicating. And so once you start doing that, you might have things that don't want to leave alone. And I'm okay with the three that I have. Like, the ones that I have are, like I said, are beautiful spirits. I've helped me, but other things, my house is off limits. So
no, you got to do what's right. I mean, I don't know how old your kids are, but last thing you want to do is scare them as well.
Yeah.
But no doubt, when they get older, they might start doing the paranormal as well. Who knows? It might run through the family.
Yeah.
Which is a nice thing, I think. So, obviously, you've been doing this for quite a while. Do you still do events now? Because you mentioned you obviously run events, so you still do public events at the moment. I know you said about your group being disbanded and stuff, but what kind of events do you do at the moment?
Yeah, so I was doing, before my health stuff really took a toll, I had like restaurant events where there was a haunted restaurant that I would do investigations. They'd come for dinner, and then we would do a tour afterwards.
Oh, I like that.
It was it was all fondue too. I don't know if you guys have fondue in the UK, but yeah. So I had a location up north in a town called Louisville here in Colorado that I did events at, and now I'm going to be. I know the owner of the mansion where the two young ladies ended up dying there. They were murdered. She has told me I can come in and investigate anytime I want. And so once, post-COVID, once we get through quarantine and can kind of return back to what we call normal, that would be the next location that I would like to at least work with the owners and open that up to other people coming in and experiencing it for themselves too.
Yeah, because it can be a good thing for tourism, and also because they're having food in the restaurants as well. It's great to support each other, isn't it? You're doing the events, you're drawing people in that perhaps may not have gone to that particular venue before, much like what we do with our tours. So it's something completely different, and you find that people do this because it's so different, and people, it's almost like on people's bucket list, isn't it, to do a ghost hunt?
Yeah, I definitely. It's something I miss doing. The events. I always met some interesting people too that would come to the events. That sometimes some of them would come to all of our events every like Halloween week events, and just when people want to like have like a good haunt, they would Halloween time they would always come out. But I miss doing the events, so I'm gonna have to get back into that.
No, it's hard, isn't it, at the moment, because we can't do events because of the lockdown and quarantine and because of COVID, which is the right things to do. We've got to play it safe, but actually, it's having a massive impact on businesses just like yours and ours.
Yeah, we're experiencing that too. It's such a tough situation.
Yeah, it really is, and it's sad because there's so many thousands of people dying around the world from the COVID-19, but equally, it's kind of hard for us because it is our income. So it's it's a difficult one. Tom's asked, what is the #1 place you've always wanted to go to on a ghost hunt? Wow.
Okay, so #1 place for me is I really want at some point to also go to Scotland.
Wow,
Scotland has been like on the top of my bucket list for like so many years. I've been very drawn, and I don't really know why, but I want to do like kind of a castle of some sort, like just go into a really old castle. We don't have old castles here in America, so I would love to like just go to Scotland and experience that and see what I could connect with. So, hopefully that answers the question of like where I would love to go. Scotland is my on the top.
Absolutely. I've never been to Scotland either. I've been to a lot of England. Been to Wales, been to Southern Ireland, but I've never been to Scotland, which is right on the south coast, of course. It's quite a way for us, isn't it, James?
Yeah. Sadly, I've only ever done a ghost tour in Scotland, so I've been to like the Edinburgh Faults, but that was about it because I was seeing family up there at the time. I really wanted to do a ghost hunt, but of course I couldn't at the same time. But yeah, hopefully one day we will get back up there and investigate a few places.
But they've got good bus tours or ghost bus tours up in Scotland as well. So, but yeah, especially places like the Edinburgh Vaults. The Edinburgh Vaults, where James, you went for a ghost tour there, didn't you? And that's well known for being really active, from a paranormal point of view.
Yeah, it's quite strange when I was speaking to them about the Edinburgh Faults. They actually part of the faults now because it's all been split up. Most of it they use as a ghost tour, but there is actually certain parts of it that is actually parts of like pubs and bars and restaurants, which
wow, that's good.
But yeah, it's an interesting place, Scotland. Yeah.
I'll have to go there one day. I'll have to make sure I go there. But one day you can come down to go to England as well. We've got some good London. There's loads of places in London, including the Underground. Even that's pretty. There's lots of Underground. The Underground is shut off. So it's loads of places over here that are well worth checking out.
Yeah.
Over to you again, James.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's probably a long list I could actually recommend of like places in the UK to visit and places to do ghost hunts. Even just walking around during the daytime, as it's like a museum, you still get a different look. And I don't know if it's the same with you out in America. Some of the places have a much different feel during the daytime to during the nighttime. Do you find that?
Yeah, I do as well. I think a lot of it has to do with the shows. The paranormal shows that are on television are all about, in the dark at nighttime kind of thing. And I do feel like there's a lot of activity, but some of the best experiences I've had are just in the daytime, and so I definitely feel like, I think it's like people always ask me like, why do I turn like lights off or those kinds of things? And it's not really, other investigators I've talked to have said, it's really more for a spooky effect. And that's not really why I do it. I just do it so that the energy can kind of settle a little bit more. I feel like when the lights are off and things aren't, the energy isn't being drawn into those lights or whatever, you get a better feel of it. So that's kind of why I do it. But yeah, definitely during the daytime, just as active. And I think any residential case I've ever done, I don't know if you guys ever do residential cases.
We have.
We do sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes like, during the day is the most active for a lot of residential cases that I've gone into. So.
Yeah, I've always said that because, they're people, aren't they? So like most of us are around between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. or whatever in the day. Ghosts would be the same because they were people, so they're going to be active at the same time of day that we were. But also, I've said before about abbeys and monasteries that we've got in the UK. Monks, for example, were on really strict schedules every day. They wouldn't have been up at like 2 in the morning, 1 in the morning. So why would you get activity then?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
But yeah, like you were saying, it's like over here. Of course, more ghost sightings are actually spotted during the day, but we still do it at night time. Number one, if it's a public event, of course, okay, a lot of people enjoy it in the dark. It's the atmosphere and everything else. But also as well, when we do it as a private group, if we do it in the dark, of course, it takes away a few of your natural senses. So therefore, we believe, hopefully, it may get your other senses kicking in, and hopefully your psychic links and everything else like that will come forward.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
I think. Go for it.
Oh, no, go for it. Go for it.
I was going to say now. I was going to say. Well, I think it'd be hard to sell tickets to a ghost hunt during the day, wouldn't it? I guess because people, like you said, because of the TV shows, they expect it to be dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Scary too.
I was just going to say, before we do finish tonight, Luana, have you got any like pages or any links that you can share with people watching at home?
Yeah, I have. Right now, I just have my Facebook. Colorado Shadow Investigations is my group. So you can go to Facebook and look up Colorado Shadow Investigations. I go under CO Colorado and Shadow INV for investigators, investigations, which is so CO Shadow Inv on YouTube. And so you can kind of look at some of the videos. And I do a lot with one of my favorite tools, which I was very skeptical of in the beginning, is the Spirit Box. And you know, they have the SV7. And I honestly like the little bits of radio that come through. I don't like to filter that out, and I use settings that I find the best for the spirits to come through. Our here we have our AM radio stations, and so that's the setting that I like to use. But I just feel like I can dial them in and we can have literally conversations. And so a lot of those videos are on YouTube if anybody would like to watch. Kind of like I have my method where I always ask Seth, like, Seth, Steve, are you guys here? Can you say your names? And then they would read their names, and so you get to hear that. Yeah, and it's neat. Like, my name is not common. It's a Hawaiian name. So even in Colorado, you don't hear Luana. You don't find a lot of Luanas here. But I think it's really neat when they can actually the Spirit Box, and I get recordings of that. So interesting.
Yeah, I'll definitely check out the YouTube page for sure, and your Facebook page as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will as well, for everyone that's watching. We will put the links on our like pages later on. So hopefully that will get a few people back towards you as well. And what I'm going to have to say is it's been fantastic tonight. Thank you, Luana, for joining us.
That's amazing.
Of course, you know, I could imagine we could talk for the next few hours all about paranormal.
I agree.
Definitely.
For everyone at home, thank you for watching. And of course, please stay safe. And of course, Andrew, thank you for joining us as well again.
Yes, big thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you. It's been fun. Thank you guys. If you guys ever make it to the America,
We'll do it.
I'll have to be there.
Yeah. And likewise, if you come to the UK, we'll do it. Let's do something together. It's fantastic. Yes. Please stay safe. Thanks so much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your evening or day in America. See you later.
Bye.